Good morning, everyone. A call is coming, literal phone call, text that functions like call or face to face conversation that carries weight of formal communication from person you believed you'd never hear from again in meaningful way. And the content of that communication is going to contradict every assumption you made about where things stood between you, what they were thinking, how they felt, and whether connection that seemed definitively finished actually has life left in it or a new chapter about to begin. You thought it was over, completely, finally, done. Maybe you made peace with that ending. Maybe you were still grieving it, but either way, you'd accepted it as permanent reality, closed book, finished story, person who was part of your life who isn't anymore. And that acceptance, that closure you'd created for yourself in absence of closure they provided, is about to be disrupted by their reappearance through that phone call. They're reaching out, breaking silence, initiating contact you stopped expecting, and what they have to say is going to shock you because it reveals truth about their feelings, their perspective, their intentions that you didn't know was truth. Let me describe what this phone call looks like and why it's happening now instead of weeks or months ago when you were still hoping for it. First element, timing is when you finally stopped waiting. You're not checking phone every hour hoping they'll text. You're not analyzing every notification wondering if it's them. You're not rehearsing what you'd say if they contacted you. You've moved on or started moving on, or at minimum accepted that they're not coming back, so you need to build life without them in it. And that's precisely when call comes, not when you were desperate for it. When you've released desperate attachment to receiving it, because desperation creates energy that repels, but release creates space that allows. Paradox of almost every manifestation. It arrives when you stop strangling it with need. Second element, content surprises you. You might have imagined if they ever contacted you again, it would be casual, hey, how are you, that meant nothing, or brief transactional communication about shared logistics. But this call has weight, has substance, has vulnerability or confession or declaration you didn't expect. Maybe they're admitting they made mistake, that walking away or ending things or creating distance was wrong and they regret it, that they've been thinking about you constantly, that losing you created hole they can't fill with anyone or anything else. I was wrong, I miss you. I want to try again. Or they're confessing feelings they hid while you were together or involved, truth they couldn't speak then but can speak now, depth of caring they minimized or concealed because vulnerability felt too risky. I love you. I've loved you. I was scared to say it before, but I need you to know. Or they're providing explanation for behavior that confused or hurt you, revealing context you didn't have, circumstances that were operating that you weren't aware of, reasons for choices that seemed inexplicable at time. Not excuses necessarily, but information that reframes your understanding of what happened and why. Or they're making offer, opportunity, invitation, proposal, path forward you didn't know was available or possible. I want you to meet me. I have something to ask you. There's opportunity I want to discuss with you. I need to tell you something in person, or they're seeking forgiveness or offering apology, taking accountability for harm they caused, acknowledging pain they created, expressing genuine remorse in ways they didn't or couldn't when you were actively connected. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I understand now what I didn't understand then. You deserved better. Let's pause here. This reflection invites you to consider, who have you given up on hearing from that you'd be genuinely shocked to get call from? Maybe X who ended things definitively, who made clear they were done, who blocked you or requested no contact, who you've been trying to accept as permanent past, not potential future, or friend who drifted away or ended friendship, who hasn't responded to your attempts at connection, who you've concluded doesn't value relationship enough to maintain it, or family member who cut contact, who created boundary or distance you've been respecting but grieving, who you thought you'd lost permanently, or romantic interest who rejected you or who you rejected, who seemed like closed door, missed opportunity, wrong timing that you believed couldn't be corrected, or professional contact who didn't respond to outreach, who seemed uninterested in working with you, who you've written off as not viable connection, whoever it is whose silence you've accepted as permanent, they're the person about to break that silence through this call. This reflection invites you to consider, if that person called you right now, what would your immediate emotional response be? Relief, joy, vindication? I knew they'd come back. I knew I mattered to them. Or anger, hurt, resistance? Where were you when I needed you? You don't get to just waltz back in. Too little, too late, or confusion, suspicion, caution. What do they want? Why now? What's changed? Or some complicated mix of all those emotions happening simultaneously, creating internal chaos you'll need to navigate while actually engaging with their communication. Your response matters. Not just what you feel, but what you do with those feelings. Whether you react from wound or respond from wisdom. Whether you punish them for making you wait or engage with what they're actually offering. Now, third element, shock factor, comes from contrast between what you believed and what's actually true. You believed they didn't care. Call reveals they do care, possibly deeply. You believed they moved on easily. Call reveals they're struggling with your absence. You believed you were forgotten. Call reveals you've been on their mind constantly. Or you believed situation was simple. Call reveals it was complicated in ways you didn't understand. You believed their behavior meant one thing. Call reveals it meant something different. That reframing, that discovering your interpretation of reality was incomplete or wrong, creates disorientation. Everything you'd concluded needs to be reconsidered. Story you'd told yourself about what happened needs to be revised. And that cognitive emotional reorganization is work, is uncomfortable even when revelation is ultimately positive. Fourth element, decision point the call creates. They're not just calling to chat. They're calling because they want something, need something, are offering something, are asking something, and you'll need to respond, not just in moment, but in days following. You'll need to decide what this communication means and how you want to proceed. Do you want to reconcile if that's what they're offering? Do you want to forgive if that's what they're seeking? Do you want to explore if that's what they're proposing? Or are you Done regardless of what they say. Is door genuinely closed on your end, even if it's opening on theirs? This reflection invites you to consider, if this person called wanting to reconnect, what would you actually need from them before you'd consider it? Just apology or changed behavior demonstrated over time? Just explanation or accountability without excuses? Just their presence or specific commitments about how things would be different? Knowing what you'd need before call arrives gives you clarity when emotional intensity of actual call might create confusion. Why call is happening now? What's changed on their end that's prompting? Contact after silence. They've reached breaking point. Can't go any longer without addressing what's unresolved. Can't maintain silence anymore. Can't keep pretending they're fine with situation as it stands, or they've done work, therapy, self-reflection, healing, and that work created capacity to reach out that they didn't have before, courage to be vulnerable, clarity about what they want, or circumstances changed, obstacle that prevented connection has been removed, distance has closed, timing that was wrong has become right, situation that made relationship impossible has shifted, or they've tried moving on and discovered they can't. They've dated others, tried replacing you, attempted to forget, and nothing and no one fills the space you occupied. Comparison destroyed every alternative, or they received new information. Learned something about you or about situation that reframed their understanding and made them reconsider conclusions they'd reached, or they're facing ending or transition, moving away, changing life circumstances, dealing with loss or crisis. And that transition creates urgency to address unfinished business before window closes permanently. Or they simply hit time threshold where enough distance has passed that reaching out feels possible when it didn't feel possible weeks or months ago. Enough healing occurred, enough perspective developed. This reflection invites you to consider which catalyst feels most likely for your specific person, breaking point, personal work, changed circumstances, failed moving on, new information, or approaching transition. How to prepare for call that's coming, because preparation determines whether you navigate it wisely or react poorly. Get clear on what you actually want before their contact creates emotional confusion. Do you want them back? Want closure? Want friendship? Want nothing? Knowing your authentic desire, not what you think you should want, but what you actually want, gives you anchor when their communication creates emotional storm. Practice boundaries around how you'll engage. Will you respond immediately or take time? Will you agree to meet in person or keep it to phone, text initially? Will you engage emotionally or stay factual until you've processed? Decide what you won't do. Won't accept blame for their choices. Won't make it easy for them to avoid accountability. Won't immediately give them access they haven't earned. Won't pretend you weren't hurt if you were hurt. Prepare emotionally for multiple scenarios. They might say exactly what you want to hear. They might disappoint you again. They might offer something different than what you expected. Can you handle each scenario without falling apart, without making impulsive decision you'll regret? without closing door or opening it before thinking through implications. Identify who you'll talk to after call to process, trusted friend, therapist, family member, someone who can help you think clearly instead of just reacting emotionally. Don't try to navigate this alone if it's significant person calling about a significant topic. And release attachment to specific outcome. You can't control what they say, can't control what they want, can't control whether call creates what you hope it creates. You can only control your response, your boundaries, your choices, your honesty about what you want and need. This reflection invites you to consider, what boundary would you need to set when call comes to protect yourself while staying open to genuine communication? Maybe I need time to process before responding rather than giving immediate answer. Maybe I'm willing to talk but not willing to rush into anything. Maybe I need to see changed behavior, not just hear different words. Or maybe I appreciate you reaching out but I've moved on and door is closed. That's valid boundary too, if that's your truth. What happens after call, assuming you engage with it rather than ignore it? Short term, emotional intensity, processing, second guessing, talking through it with trusted people, analyzing what was said and what it means, deciding how to proceed. Don't make major decisions in that immediate aftermath. Take time. Let dust settle. Let initial emotional spike calm before committing to reconciliation or closure or whatever path forward presents itself. Either rebuilding connection if you decide to pursue it, or creating actual closure if you decide not to. Either way, call creates movement from stuck limbo into definitive direction. If rebuilding, go slowly. Don't rush back into full intimacy. Build trust through demonstrated consistency, not just words. Address what went wrong before. Create new patterns, not just resurrect old ones. If closing, do so with finality. Don't leave door cracked. Don't maintain false hope for them or for yourself. Clean ending serves better than ambiguous maybe. Long term, either relationship that's different and better than before because you both learned and grew, or peace that comes from knowing, from having had conversation, from getting information, from choosing consciously instead of having choice made for you by their silence. Either outcome serves. If navigated with wisdom and honesty, you remain in complete control of how you respond when call comes. You can engage or ignore, be vulnerable or defended, give chance or maintain boundary, forgive or decline to forgive. The power is yours. It always has been. You may notice reading this has brought specific person to mind with uncomfortable intensity. Maybe hope rising despite efforts to stay realistic. Maybe dread about facing this conversation. Maybe anger that they get to decide when to reach out after making you wait. Whatever you're feeling, honor it. Take what resonates. Softly release the rest. Trust yourself. Before we close, I want to ask you something. If person you thought you'd never hear from again called you tomorrow, would you answer or let it go to voicemail to buy time? Drop your honest answer in the comments. And this, what would they need to say for you to consider their communication genuine versus just manipulation or loneliness? This phone call you're about to get will shock you. You thought it was over. And when that call comes, whether tomorrow or next week or next month, but soon from person you'd accepted as permanent past, with content that contradicts assumptions you made about their feelings and intentions, creating decision point about whether to engage or decline. Your job is responding from wisdom, not just from wound, setting boundaries that protect while allowing genuine communication, and making choice that serves your healing and happiness, not just their need for redemption or reconnection. Not eventually, imminent, days to weeks at most. Trust yourself with this. Trust that you'll know what to say when moment comes. Trust that you can handle conversation even if it's emotionally intense. Trust that you deserve honesty from them and from yourself about what you want. Trust that whatever you decide will be right for you. See you in the next one, and listen when someone breaks silence after you've accepted it as permanent. You're allowed to take time, allowed to protect yourself, allowed to require more than just words. Don't let their urgency create your urgency to respond before you're ready. Stay boundaried, stay clear, stay wise. The call is coming. Be prepared to navigate it consciously.